Every judge who opened your file was met with silence, caught in a moment of uncertainty that spoke volumes. The evidence didn't fit neatly into any category. It challenged their understanding and forced them to confront a truth far more complex than guilt or innocence. This isn't a story about clear-cut labels or easy judgments. It's about a life so multifaceted that it defies simple definitions, where brilliance and controversy collide, and where the line between criminal and genius blurs. As you read this, take a moment to support this message. Like, subscribe to help us reach 5,000 subscribers, and leave a comment to show your commitment to seeing beyond surface judgments. Because some stories demand more than silence. They demand understanding. Extraordinary that it brings even the most seasoned judges to a halt. This file tells a story that refuses to fit neatly into the typical boxes of right or wrong, guilt or innocence. It contains the life of a person so complex, so multifaceted, that every attempt to label them crumbles beneath the weight of their truth. The silence that follows is not just a pause, it's a profound moment of realization that some lives cannot be fully understood through legal definitions alone. As the judges turn the pages, they don't just see evidence, they see a mosaic of humanity, flaws interwoven with brilliance, missteps shadowed by moments of breathtaking loyalty. It's a story that challenges the black and white lens through which society often views people. This file demands a different kind of attention, one that transcends simple judgment and invites empathy, curiosity, and above all, humility. What makes this file so powerful is that it refuses to present an easy narrative. It lays bare the contradictions, the mistakes, and the moments of grace. And it forces those who read it to grapple with the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the essence of a person is found in the spaces between extremes. The silence it inspires is a testament to the limitations of the courtroom and a reminder that true understanding is far more complex than any verdict. Behind every page lies a human being who has endured battles unseen, fought wars within their own soul, and lived a life that defies easy explanation. The judge's silence is not confusion, but awe, a recognition that they are witnessing something extraordinary, a life story so raw and real that it shakes the very foundation of what justice means. This file is more than evidence. It's a mirror reflecting the intricate layers of the human condition. Ultimately, this file does not ask for condemnation or praise. It calls for a moment of deep reflection. It invites us to question our assumptions and to acknowledge that sometimes the loudest stories are told in silence. And in that silence, the truth speaks in a language that no courtroom ever fully understands. There's a fine, often invisible line separating brilliance from criminality, a line that this story crosses again and again. When society encounters a mind that defies convention, it struggles to categorize it. Is this person a visionary ahead of their time, or a lawbreaker driven by selfish motives? This dilemma haunts every page of the file, presenting judges with a choice so stark that it seems almost impossible to make. Throughout history, we've seen countless figures whose greatness was initially misunderstood. Think of Vincent van Gogh, whose genius was dismissed in his lifetime, or Galileo, condemned for challenging prevailing beliefs. The soul in this file walks a similar path, caught in the crossfire between admiration and accusation. What makes their story so gripping is the way it embodies this eternal tension, a dance between light and shadow, where genius and guilt become inseparable. But unlike historical icons who found vindication over time, this individual's fate hinges on immediate judgment. The pressure is immense and the stakes are high. Every decision feels like a razor's edge, balancing on the unpredictable fulcrum of public perception and the fragile scales of justice. The dilemma is not just legal, it is profoundly human, touching on how we understand creativity, rebellion, and the messy boundaries of morality. At its core, this struggle is a reflection of society's discomfort with ambiguity. We crave neat categories because they provide security, a sense of control. Yet, the file reveals that some souls simply cannot be confined. They challenge us to embrace complexity, to accept that the brightest minds sometimes cast the darkest shadows, and that in those shadows there can still be brilliance. This ultimate dilemma forces us to confront our own biases and fears. It asks, how do we define greatness? And when does genius become a threat? The answer lies not in easy labels, but in the courage to hold both possibilities at once, and to understand that the truth often lives in the tension between them. Labels are powerful. They give us quick answers and shape how we see the world, but sometimes they fail spectacularly. This story is a vivid example of how labels can trap us in narrow views, blinding us to the fuller, more complicated reality beneath. The soul in this file is not just a criminal or a genius. They are a complex mosaic that defies simple categorization. When we label someone, we risk reducing their entire existence to a single word. That reduction erases the nuances, the moments of tenderness, the flashes of courage, the internal battles that define a human life. The file exposes how these labels distort reality, turning a story rich with contradictions into a one-dimensional caricature. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of rushing to judgment and the cost of ignoring the deeper truth. Imagine being judged not for who you truly are, but for the label assigned to you. This is a form of invisibility, a silencing that strips away identity and humanity. The person behind the label becomes a symbol, a stereotype, and the world loses sight of their real experiences, their hopes, fears, and the depth of their soul. This failure of labeling is not just tragic, it's a fundamental injustice. the story also challenges the audience to look beyond the surface and question their own impulses to categorize others. It asks us to resist the temptation to simplify and instead embrace the complexity that makes us human. It's a call to empathy, to see people as whole beings rather than as convenient labels. Ultimately, when labels fail the truth, what remains is a profound emptiness, a silence that cries out for understanding. This file reminds us that truth is rarely simple, and that the courage to hold space for complexity is the first step toward genuine justice and compassion. Love, in its purest form, is a force that can lift us to unimaginable heights or drag us into the deepest struggles. The love chronicled in this story is fierce, unyielding, and often misunderstood. A love so intense that it becomes both a source of strength and a battlefield. It is a love that does not conform to easy definitions or expectations, and because of that, it confounds those who try to comprehend it. This love is not gentle or neat. It is raw, messy, and relentless. It fights against odds, endures betrayals, and carries burdens that others refuse to bear. It is the kind of love that sacrifices without question and gives without reservation. But this very intensity makes it difficult for outsiders to recognize. To many, it looks like obsession, weakness, or even guilt. Yet beneath it lies an unwavering devotion that defies logic. In the story, this love is the glue holding together fractured pieces, the silent force behind actions that often seem inexplicable. It challenges the notion that love must be easy or straightforward, revealing instead how love can become a battlefield where only one fights and the other either cannot or will not. This lonely struggle adds a profound emotional depth to the narrative, showing how love can be both salvation and curse. The story resonates because it reflects a universal truth. Love is rarely simple. It can inspire greatness, but also lead to profound pain. Understanding this love requires us to look beyond surface judgments and appreciate the complexity of emotions that drive human behavior. Ultimately, this fierce love is a testament to the power of connection, even when it is flawed and fraught with difficulty. It teaches us that love is not always about harmony, but sometimes about the courage to keep fighting, even when the odds are stacked against us. In the courtroom, silence can speak volumes. This story culminates in a silence so profound that it becomes the loudest statement of all, a moment that transcends words, verdicts, and judgments. It is a silence born not of emptiness, but of deep understanding and awe, a silence that reverberates with the weight of unspoken truths. Throughout the trial, words are exchanged, accusations made, defenses mounted. Yet when the final moments arrive, the silence that fills the room is more telling than any declaration. It signals a collective recognition that this case is not one of simple justice, but of something far more complex. A human story that defies easy conclusions. This silence is a powerful emotional pause. It reflects the judge's internal struggle and the limits of the legal system to capture the full humanity of the individual before them. It is a silence heavy with empathy, respect, and perhaps a sense of humility that justice alone cannot provide. For the audience, this silence invites reflection. It challenges us to listen carefully to what remains unsaid, the nuances, contradictions, and depths that words cannot fully express. It is a reminder that sometimes the most honest response is not to speak, but to hold space for mystery and complexity. In this way, silence becomes the final verdict, not a dismissal, but an acknowledgement of the profound truth that some stories cannot be neatly resolved. It is an emotional crescendo that leaves an indelible mark on everyone who witnesses it, reminding us that sometimes the most meaningful answers are found in quiet understanding rather than loud declarations. Loyalty is often mistaken for blind obedience or weakness, but in truth, it's a powerful testament to the strength of character and resilience. The soul in this story exhibits a loyalty so fierce and unwavering that it becomes a defining feature, yet it's consistently misunderstood and undervalued. Instead of being seen as a source of strength, it's wrongly judged as a flaw, an inability to stand up for oneself. This misinterpretation arises from society's impatience with complexity. People want heroes who fight visibly and loudly, not those who sacrifice quietly or endure hardships for the sake of others. But the loyalty in this case is not passive. It is active, deliberate, and deeply rooted in love and commitment. It's the kind of loyalty that demands courage and self-sacrifice, not submission. In many ways, this misplaced judgment reveals more about those who judge than the one being judged. It highlights the biases we all carry, expecting strength to look a certain way and dismissing forms of loyalty that don't fit the mold. This story forces us to reconsider what true loyalty means and to honor those who stay devoted even when it costs them dearly. Moreover, the consequences of this misunderstanding are profound. Loyalty that's mistaken for weakness can isolate and silence, turning a protective force into a source of vulnerability. The person who gives so much of themselves is left exposed and misunderstood, creating a tragic tension between intention and perception. Ultimately, this chapter in the story is a call to recognize and respect loyalty in all its forms. It reminds us that strength is not always loud or visible. Sometimes it's the quiet, steady presence that refuses to waver, no matter how fierce the storm. Every story of greatness or tragedy carries with it hidden battles, fights that take place far from the public eye, unseen by those who only witness the outcome. This individual's journey is no different. Behind every decision every moment of despair or triumph, lies a private war waged in silence. These internal conflicts are the true heart of the story, the invisible scars that shape every action and reaction. These battles are not just emotional, but often spiritual and psychological. They reveal the struggle between who the person is, who they want to be, and who others expect them to become. This tension can be exhausting and isolating, yet it is also where the deepest growth occurs. The file shows us the moments when the soul wrestled with fear, doubt, and pain, and how those moments forged a resilience that few can imagine. What makes these hidden battles so compelling is that they are universally relatable. Everyone fights private wars, battles invisible to the world, but no less real. In this story, those struggles are amplified by the stakes and the scrutiny, but they echo a shared human experience of vulnerability and perseverance. Understanding these unseen conflicts changes the way we see the individual at the center of the story. It shifts the focus from judgment to empathy and invites us to honor the courage it takes to fight such battles without surrender. It reminds us that behind every visible struggle, there are countless quiet moments of bravery. These hidden battles remind us that humanity is complex and layered. What we see on the surface is often just a fraction of the truth. To truly understand a person, we must be willing to look deeper into the unseen wars that define them. Sacrifice is one of the most profound expressions of love and commitment. Yet in this story, it is often misread as guilt. The soul's selflessness, giving up hopes, dreams, and sometimes their very freedom is mistaken for wrongdoing or weakness. This tragic misunderstanding twists the narrative and adds a heartbreaking layer to an already complex tale. The difference between sacrifice and guilt is subtle but crucial. Sacrifice is a conscious, often painful choice made for the good of others. Guilt is an emotional burden, a feeling of having done wrong. When sacrifice is viewed through the lens of guilt, it distorts reality and punishes generosity with suspicion. This misinterpretation speaks to a deeper societal discomfort with vulnerability and selflessness. In a world that often rewards individualism and self-interest, those who sacrifice for others can be seen as naive or culpable. The story reveals how this toxic mindset can warp perceptions and lead to unfair condemnation. Furthermore, the way sacrifice is perceived shapes the individual's experience profoundly. Being seen as guilty rather than heroic creates isolation and despair, a painful disconnect between intention and recognition. It's a cruel irony that those who give the most can be the ones who suffer the deepest misunderstandings. Through this lens, the story challenges us to rethink how we value sacrifice. It calls for a cultural shift from suspicion to respect, from blame to gratitude. Recognizing sacrifice for what it truly is honors the humanity at the core of this story and countless others. There are battles fought, not on battlefields, but in the hearts and minds of individuals standing against overwhelming odds. This story reveals the painful reality of a soul waging a solitary war against a world that misunderstands and judges harshly. The feeling of being outnumbered, isolated, and relentlessly scrutinized creates a tension that is both tragic and inspiring. This unseen war is about more than just external conflict.